Next, we'll be working with the character movement system. Go to the blueprints folder, open the player blueprint, and here in the components, there's the character movement component. If you click on it, on the right side of the screen, in the details tab, we'll have a lot of different settings here. There's so many different things here. And this basically controls all of the movement of the character. And we'll be adjusting these one by one. As an example, let's see what happens when we change any of these values here. By default, when we press play and jump, this is how long we stay in the air. Because right now the gravity is set to 1. But for example, if we set it to 0.1 and press play, when we jump, the character goes very high and then slowly slows down and starts to fall again, as if he's on the moon or in the space almost. But actually we want to do the opposite. We want to make him a bit heavier with his jumps and then set it to 2. So now, when he jumps, it's a little bit more heavier. But his jump is not too high now, and we'll adjust that a little bit later. We'll go one by one and do a few adjustments, because by default, the numbers that are set aren't the best for a cartoony 3D platformer. Because the default character movement settings are more set for a third-person shooter game rather than a third-person platformer. So we need to adjust a few of these values here. Right after gravity, there's the max acceleration. And this is how fast the acceleration can go up to. We want to increase that to 5,000. And next, and the brake friction should be 8. And then scroll down to the character movement. Here, there's the ground friction, which we'll set to 5 to make it less actually. And here is where we can actually set the speed of the character. I'll show an example where we'll put it to 1,200, which is double the speed. And then we'll start to see how the character moves much faster now. If you're making a game like Sonic, you can put this to something very high, like 3,000 for example, and then he will start to go very fast. And yeah, you can do some really cool things with this. But for us, we want to keep it at 600, the default number. Next, we want to set the braking, deceleration, walking from 2000 to 2600. And now below here, we can start to work with the jump velocity. We'll set that to 450 and then set the air control to 1. And this is a very interesting setting because when we go back to playing and we try to move while jumping, we can have actually quite a lot of movement back and forth. And if we actually decrease this to, for example, 0.1, the character will not move much while he's in the air. And it will basically commit to his direction. So we're moving forward and we're jumping and I try to go back. I can't easily do that. But if we set it to 1, which is the value that I want us to set it to, and then we play, and then we jump, we can in mid-air just go back and move around however we like. Next, we'll scroll down and skip a bunch of different things. And then we go to the character movement rotation setting. Right now it's set to 500. And this is basically how fast the character rotates when going left and right. Now, as you can see, when we go left and right, it's not so quick. So we'll set it to 900. And now when we rotate, he rotates much faster. This makes movement a little bit more smoother for a third-person platformer. But if you've noticed, right now, the jumping is very bad. We can actually not even do any kind of platforming. We can barely jump any high. But we set it to actually a lower number because we need to adjust one important setting. And actually, this setting is not in the character movement. It's in the player root. So we select that. And here in the details window, there's a lot of settings. So actually, a quicker way to look for things instead of scrolling through them is using the search bar up here. So we'll write here jump. And it will show us all the jump values. And what we want is to scroll down and go to this character jump. Currently the hold time is 0. What this means is when we jump and hold, nothing changes. But if we press it to 0.25, now when we jump and hold, we jump much higher. And this is exactly why we set the jumping velocity to a lower number. because now when we just tap it, it will jump a very small jump. But if we hold and tap, it will jump a longer jump. And this is very typical for platformer games. One last thing we want to do is add a second jump. And here basically the jump max count allows you to put in how many jumps the character can do. So right now we can jump and then press again to do a double jump. So like this, boom, boom. And we can increase this to however much we want. So for example, I can put it to 5, press play. And now when I jump, I can jump several different times. For us, we just want to have a 2. So it's a double jump. And then we save and compile. And that's it for the character movement system.